2021 forecasting for each individual rising sign. I would just like to start with a general overview. And I'd also like to start by thanking the Almighty God for protecting us and helping us through 2020, as He will continue doing for us moving forward. Now we will see a shift towards more online schooling, shopping with the North Node in Gemini, as we've seen happening already in 2020, including most forms of communication, trade, other businesses and online businesses will become the norm. Cash will be less heard of, and eventually moving more towards the past and digital forms. So for most of 2021, we could be experiencing some uncomfortability as we have a difficult square aspect in the sky between Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus, both fixed signs that don't really want to budge, and both are co-rulers of this beautiful Aquarian age that we're moving into now. And they are not in a harmonious conversation, and therefore we can expect that this is going to take more work and will take more time before the idealistic Aquarian age can be reached, so to speak. We will have to contend with much more restrictions of our freedoms. We'll have to contend with restrictions that will include freedom of speech on all platforms, probably, information, the internet, separation, probably new legislation in regards to aviation in general and flying. Of course, a lack of privacy goes with tracking, as well as alliance integration. And really it is the old versus the new, and we will see many rebel and stand up for their rights, and we'll also see a lot of disciplinary action and fining throughout the year. It's very much an order out of chaos energy, so I don't want to pretend like this is going to be this amazing year. Of course, there will be blessings. It's very seldom in life where we only have good or only have bad. There's always a mixture of the two, and it'll all depend on how we approach our obstacles. We'll be forced to be more creative and to find new possibilities and to connect to the higher vibration of God. We will probably learn to live more moment to moment and to really appreciate the little things, to appreciate the family, our family that's around us that we normally take for granted. And it will be good for us to stay in gratitude of the things that we do have and do the best with what we can and what we do have, and to focus on nature and on the sunrise, to remind yourself that God is still in control and that the truth is steady and secure. And as long as you're rooted in the truth, nothing can sway you, and it doesn't matter what your circumstances or reality look like, you know where your roots are. So that will be very important throughout the year. And we will be moving towards living much lighter and more flexible. It will be wise to be prepared, and also to really look where you can be of service and of help in the community as well, and how people can help each other. I recently saw in Marketplace a lady that started a group that just basically gives things away. So it's people that maybe they didn't lose their job, and they still have an income and they're still okay, but they have maybe some children's shoes that they don't need anymore, and instead of selling them, they're donating them, or they're just posting it and someone can come pick it up, hey, I've got a size 7 this or that. And people are really starting to come together and help each other out, and I think we'll be seeing a lot more of that. And your currency is really going to become your talents and skills and the things that make you unique. And if you can sew something and someone else can build something, and you can trade services and you can trade things, we're going to see a lot more of that happening going forward. We'll see a lot of ups and downs, like I've said in my previous video as well, of the financial world. We're looking at a global recession for a long time. This is also a time where we will become more aware of each other's similarities and connectedness than each other's differences. And we will be more focused on our purpose and the contemplation of the deeper meaning of life and the deeper side of life. And that'll be more the order of the day. And Jupiter will bring in much learning and also guidance from above to help us navigate through this grief period of the loss of the familiar. And it will allow us to tap into the Creator's energy and make lemonade out of lemons. And through that, we will establish amazing connections with like-minded people, with our Creator, and there will be much spiritual blessings coming from this year going forward. So let's begin with your individual rising signs 2021 forecasting. Welcome, Virgo rising, sun or moon. Please listen to your rising sign first, as this will give you the most accurate placement in the forecast. Well, Virgo, I'm going to go to your 5th house of Capricorn, where Pluto has been since 2008 and will be till 2023. Now, the 5th house deals with children, it deals with pregnancy, speculation, love affairs, politics, creative projects, entertainment, sport activities, and pretty much fun, anything that you enjoy doing and how you express yourself. Now, if you have children, this could be a very fateful period. It is a long transit, but everything that you do in regards to your children will have a very powerful effect on them. It can actually also indicate actual birth, as Pluto enters the 5th house in some cases. But sometimes it can also indicate that there might be too much pressure being put on the children, too much control, and that you might need to just cut a little back on that. It can also mean it's the other way around in some cases. But there could be a power struggle in that area. And you want to be careful that if you have serious control issues here and you come across more as a dictator, that this could possibly ruin your relationship with your children. So it's important to be aware of that tendency if it does exist, and try and remind yourself when it comes up to balance it out more. And it's also a time where you'd rather not take chances with your children's health. Sometimes it can indicate an emotional, intimate love affair. So it might not be physical, but it could be an emotional kind of intimacy. It can also be physical. Or if it's an existing relationship, it can mean that it's going through a very, very deep change. And in some cases, it can even mean, in a negative sense, it can mean that the partner could be very controlling, or maybe treating you very degrading in some way, or that you might perceive some of their actions in that way. And in a positive way, it can also be extremely divine. It can be this extremely potent intensity, like soul connection. But either way, it will be, if you are in a relationship, it will go through a complete change during this transit time. And if it's a long-term relationship that's always been quite secure, you should be able to withstand this. But if it's a troubled relationship already, then it might end with this transit. But if it makes it, it'll be sort of everlasting if it makes it through this transit. But you could be very in a sort of a deeper state of emotional awareness, where the superficial things will not cut it for you. If you meet someone, like say you're not in a relationship and you're meeting someone, you're going to be looking for someone that's more deep, and you're going to be looking for the real thing. And then let's have a look at Neptune, that's been in Pisces since 2012 and will be until 2025. And Neptune is in your 7th house of relationships. And the 7th house is your partner, spouse. It can be a business partner, the public, a niece or nephew. It's also your opponents. It can also symbolize lawsuits, settlements, contracts that are signed, marriage or divorce. And in regards to people, a lawyer. Did I say that? I think I might have said that. But that's pretty much what the 7th house deals with. So with Neptune here, there can be misunderstandings if you have someone representing you, like a lawyer, or so make sure that if you are doing anything very important or to do with legal things or whatever, that your understanding is clear and communication is clear, that you really know what's going on. So it's a good idea to maybe get second opinions, or make sure you really look deeply into what's happening. Sometimes it can denote some misunderstandings also with obviously close relationships, whether it's a partner or a marriage partner. Even sometimes it can denote lies or fraudulent activity. Or on the other hand, it can also bring in romance and a real deep spiritual connection with each other, as well as your creator. But it can usually, there is some hidden aspect to this transit. It might be that, if there is issues in the relationship, that there could be one partner that's not being entirely truthful, or they're just not verbalizing what they really feel, and that leaves you in the dark, and that causes misunderstandings because one person is not talking about how they feel. And sometimes this can Neptune here can bring in an unrealistic view of the relationship. It could be too idealistic. So in some cases, it can bring in a sense of where you could be trying to rescue someone with problems, and you're staying in the relationship too long because you feel it's the right thing to do. You're married. You need to work on this, and you can save this person, and and you might be undermining yourself through this because it could possibly be a lost cause situation where you really cannot change this person. This person has to change for themselves, but you maybe get lost in translation somewhere. You get so immersed in the relationship that you don't even know who you are anymore because you're so busy focusing on saving this marriage or being the perfect partner that you stop doing the things that that make you who you are. And sometimes it can blur what a relationship is really about. And it can also be that you idealize the person or the idea of a perfect marriage, for example, and so it's almost like you're living a lie in some cases. Like you could be thinking this is the you're doing everything perfectly and la 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 la, but there's still something missing because you don't maybe have a realistic point of view of what a relationship is about. Maybe your childhood, maybe your parents were divorced, or whatever happened in your childhood could have made your view on relationships unrealistic. So you don't really know what it's supposed to be. So you have this picture in your mind of what it should be, and it's just never, never living up to that. But it could actually be just a really wonderful relationship, and you're not seeing it. Either way, whichever end of the spectrum it is, this is a transit where, depending on who you are and your relationship as it is already, if you're in one, these kinds of things can come up or come to your attention. Sometimes it can indicate taking care of someone that's ill or in need. It could be a partner or even a niece or a nephew, or a person that you are taking care of. It can also sometimes indicate that someone in the relationship is having escapism issues with maybe drugs or alcohol. But this is not a good transit to start new business partnerships. And with pretty much most consultations, or say it's a lawsuit or anything like that, the outcomes could be difficult to find, or information about it, just because Neptune can sort of blur things and make things more foggy and harder to find, or harder to find clarity on. So in general, of course, this is a long transit, so you're not always going to be able to control that, but at least you'll know if it does take longer or it's harder to find, that you need to dig a little deeper and be a bit more patient and thorough. And then Uranus will be in Taurus, your 9th house, and is in Taurus as of 2018 to 2026. And your 9th house deals with long, faraway journeys. It deals with foreign interests. It deals with legalizing documents, publishing, higher education, religion, philosophy, the law. It can deal with your in-laws, your grandchildren, and travelers or people from foreign lands, or that people that speak other languages, and so forth. Now with Uranus here, your knowledge of the world will increase and expand considerably. And you might find a higher understanding of information that you might have had before, or knowledge that you've had before, but your insights about them will become way more deep and clear, and you'll broaden your understanding in a huge way. It might in the beginning be that some of the maybe unconventional things that are coming at you right now, as far as beliefs and perspectives and philosophies and so forth goes, can be something that you might even resist at first, because it sort of goes against what you've maybe always been taught, or maybe it doesn't fully go against it, but you are getting a different perspective of it and a deeper understanding of it. And it's challenging your traditional way of thinking. And so through this transit, you will begin to open up to it more, because it will sort of be an irresistible kind of exploration of not just the higher mind, but really the soul as well. And therefore you will you might resist it at first, but then you will sort of feel yourself immersed in it, where you can't resist it anymore, and you will keep exploring it till you feel good about it, or whatever decision you come upon. Sometimes if you go to an extreme, you can go to an extreme with your beliefs with this transit. And then you might find people being very open about proving you wrong, or wanting to tell you you're taking things too far. So you might experience that. Or if you find someone is saying to you, listen, you need to lower the volume on this intensity, then you'll know that maybe it's consumed you to such a degree that it's taken you over in a way. So you need to be able to adjust that intensity and realize that not everyone is going to be going through this revelation, and it's harder for them to see what you are seeing. You might even start studying astrology with this transit, or some other unconventional topic. Travel could be very revolutionizing during this transit, because it'll also affect the way you think and how you experience the world. It's a good idea to avoid legal encounters with Uranus here, because it can bring in very unexpected results. But it's important to stay open for growth with this transit. And to, regardless of what you are becoming more clear on, to stay compassionate towards others, and have patience with others and how they see things, and be willing to give them an opportunity to voice their opinion and see their perspectives on things as well. Sometimes it can indicate unusual relationships or relations with your in-laws, or very sporadic. But overall, this will be a time of practical innovation for you as well. And it would be wise to be very flexible and in a sort of a flexible place financially, because financially this is not necessarily a financial house, but Taurus is a financial sign, and with Uranus here, collectively for everyone. This is unpredictable financially, all across the board, so just be aware of that as well. And then Saturn will be in Aquarius as of the December 2020, and will be there until 2023. And this is your 6th house of health. It's also the house of pets, of tenancy, of caretaking. It's the house of duties and responsibilities. It's the house of your work environment, say your office, the people you work along with there. If you have a business, it can be your employees or people that are considered below you. It can even be a nurse or a dentist or a healer of some kind, a doctor, or an uncle or an aunt. Now with Saturn in Aquarius, your personal detachment heightens. You become more objective. You're less emotional with this transit. You learn through your peers with this transit, and usually through either group acceptance or group rejection as well, or that could be experienced. But this is a very important time of development in your life with Saturn in the 6th house. And it can be a very heavy energy at times because this is a duty and responsibility house as well. So usually this can be a time where you might be doing very laborious type of work. You're working hard. You might not feel like you're being recognized for what you're doing. You might feel a bit defeated or overwhelmed and hard to keep up to the demands of the job or the employer or whatever it is that you're working towards. But if you stay diligent and keep grinding, you will reap the rewards by the end of this transit when Saturn moves into your 7th house, which will be in 2023. So this is a time where you want to just keep at it. Be patient, be diligent, plan ahead, and just keep at it. Because this will have long-term benefits for you. And it will be important for you to conserve your energies during this transit as well, so that you have energy for that which is really needed. And you don't want to overdo things though, so keep a good healthy pace so that you don't get ill from overdoing things. So listen to your body and take care of yourself. Sometimes if this is a case where other things also indicate that a person is maybe ill or have some kind of illness, with Saturn here, it can maybe take it longer to heal. And in other cases, it can sometimes bring up some kind of chronic illness thing that might, bring out a symptom again or something like that. And that should again soften up as Saturn moves out of that house. But in general, you might feel a bit less energetic or less slower moving in the area of work, even though it's maybe, you're working really hard, but the results are taking a long time to show. So just be aware that that is very normal with this transit. And then Jupiter will also be entering the 6th house in December 2020. So that comes in as a blessing at first. So at first it comes in with Saturn, and then it'll eventually leave Saturn and Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius, by November of 2021. I think it's around the 20th. So, and it'll briefly also move into Pisces around May and June. And then it'll retrograde back into Aquarius. But while it is in the 6th house. This is wonderful for personal growth. It's also wonderful for your health. So it will bring in healing. It's also indicative of fulfilling work. So even though you might be going through a period where you are really putting in all the behind the scenes labor of something right now, this is going to be fulfilling for you, and you will be getting a lot of meaning out of this and more enjoyment out of this with Jupiter here. In some cases, it can indicate a new job. Sometimes it can indicate better pay or different and better conditions of work. Maybe you're working with a new group of people. Maybe you're working with unusual people that you've never worked with before. It's maybe a foreign type of situation. And sometimes it can indicate, did I say better pay? That you could possibly get better pay. But there's an improvement in your work environment and conditions. It can even indicate that it can sort of make it also easier for you to get employment if you've been looking for work. This is also a good time for you to gain weight with Jupiter here, depending also on other things in the chart. So just be aware of your consumption, because this can be a growth period physically as well as in a beautiful kind of way. So avoid overindulgence and avoid sweet foods and you know, anything that can affect the liver or the pancreas. And also be aware of your children's health during this transit, and make sure that they're also not overindulging and taking care of their health and their consumption as well. But this is a wonderful, it's a very unselfish transit with Jupiter here. It brings in a lot of compassion and meaning in the workplace as well, with whatever it is that you are doing or who you're working with. And then Jupiter will briefly go into Pisces, which is your 7th house of relationships. And it favors any partnership, whether it's business, spouse. This is a favorable aspect. It's beautiful. It's very compassionate. It's very spiritually in tune. It's great for helping others and helping each other, and other people helping you. This is a great time to not be alone and to be with other people. And it's also a time where if you did need to see a consultant or a lawyer or someone like that, this would be the time when it would be good for you to see them with Jupiter here. It can also sometimes indicate, but in any case, with me saying that, you'd still want to check details and really be thorough because of Neptune in this house. So regardless of the fact that Jupiter is here and it's benefic, you want to make sure that you're still very careful because of Neptune sitting there. Now, in some cases, it can be suggestive of a partner from a foreign place or something like that, or meeting someone in a foreign place. But whoever it is will expand your view of the world, and you will grow through this experience and through this transit. If it's a new person that you're meeting, a new relationship that's starting, it might be, like I said, someone that's from a different origin or from far away, or just very different of you. Maybe they speak a different language, and they might be quite settled in life already, or sort of have their things organized already, and they're wiser and more experienced maybe than you feel you are. And you are learning quite a bit from them. But this is a transit that can make you very compassionate and kind, and you want to be careful of being taken for granted and for a fool. Be careful that you're not being free, that someone's not freeloading off of you with this transit. You can also feel very like you want to donate to charity and help others out, and that's fine, but make sure that these causes are not fraudulent, and that they are what they say they are. And depending on Jupiter and other afflictions in the chart and so on that's related, it can sometimes indicate that that the one of the partners, if you are in a relationship, there could be disruption in the relationship in regards to issues with maybe not believing the same way, like religious types of reasons. Maybe one partner feels this is the truth and this partner feels no, this is the truth, and there's a lot of strain in the marriage or in the business partnership because of different belief systems. And then let's have a look at Mars going through the chart. Now, Mars will enter Taurus on the 7th of January, and that'll be your 9th house of long journeys, philosophy, higher education, the law, your in-laws, your grandchildren, that area. And this is the house where Uranus sits. That we've spoken about. Now, when Mars enters here, your determination will heighten. You'll have more practical direction. You will be more ambitious to achieve, and you will probably want to be very inspired to learn or to travel or to understand things more. You'll be really want to initiate in this area. And it can start slow at first, but it will be purposeful and driven. Activities can be geared to money making as well, or in regards to your spiritual values and security. You could also feel like you want to defend your beliefs with this transit, but either way, you will be expanding your view more with Mars here. Sometimes it can indicate legal difficulties with some other transits supporting that. But it's important that during this transit that you don't become too aggressive towards others in regards to what you believe, and rather instead of trying to convince other people to believe the way you do, or to rather take this time to expand your own understanding even more, and focus on just being more open-minded and willing to allow others to their own timing on finding the truth. It can sometimes indicate a desire to travel as well. Now, with Mars here, it will conjunct Uranus through its transit here. And at that point, you couldn't expect sudden changes. It can sometimes indicate an outburst of aggression, but be aware here that it can bring consequences with the law. So be careful of your anger. Sometimes it can bring in a flash of insight or some divine inspiration or a message from God or a dream or a vision of some kind. So this could be very profound. It can even be that suddenly you have a breakthrough in your understanding of something. Maybe you've been struggling for a while now since Uranus has been in this sign to really get a grasp on something or to feel whether it resonates with you or not. And suddenly you have clarity on that. It's like a flash of insight, of truth being revealed. But with this transit, it is dangerous in regards to accidents whilst traveling, for example. So not that will necessarily happen, but it is advisable that if you have to travel with this transit, that you maybe see an astrologer just to check out your chart and have a look to see what else is going on at that time. So just be more careful. And then Mars will be in Cancer in your 11th house as of the 23rd of March. And your 11th house deals with groups. It deals with memberships, political groups. It can deal with a gym membership. It can be your hopes and dreams for the future. It can be friends, people that you associate with, that you have alliances with. It can also deal with co-workers, legislators, legislation. It can be your son and daughter-in-law. It can also be the company you work for example's financial situation. Now with Mars here in Cancer, you can be a bit over emotional or overly emotionally involved in maybe your friends or co-workers or issues in regards to finances at work or your mom or even family. But you'll be more sensitive to criticism with Mars here. And it can be that you take that out onto the ones close to you. So just be aware of that. But you'll be actively wanting to pursue your goals more, most likely, with this transit. And it will probably prompt you to work in some kind of teamwork environment, or maybe with a group of people. Maybe it's for a charity or some altruistic cause or of some kind, but you might find it hard to work in a team with Mars here, because Mars can tend to want to do things their own way and by themselves and so forth. So it'll be important for you to balance your interests with those of others, and not to necessarily undermine yourself, but to be willing to work in cooperation with others. And but you can find it challenging, possibly, with Mars here. But this will ultimately be good for you. This can be a great way to bond with others, would be, for example, through group sports as well. And then while Mars is here, it will oppose Pluto that's in your 5th house at some point. And with this, you could face some kind of resistance. Sometimes it can be a culmination of persistent effort, but it can be a power struggle of some kind. And it can sometimes indicate a disregard towards others or vice versa. But this is a time where you don't want to go at it alone. So if you need assistance, get the assistance. This can have something to do with your children and work. It can be with children and groups. It can be in regards to a creative project. or some kind of project that you're starting on your own, even at your own business and work. It can be speculation. It can be a lover or love affair or something to do with a child. Whatever it is, if there's some kind of issue, this can be a very violent energy. So you want to stay as calm as you can through any upsetting triggers and get the assistance if you need it. Maybe it can even sometimes, maybe it's a child that needs counseling or whatever it is, get help if you need it. Of course, this is not going to mean that it's going to be this intense for everyone. I just tend to make it clear that it can be serious depending on your chart, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be that way for you. It can just be a very mild power struggle even. That's normal with children or, something like that. And then Mars will be in Leo in your 12th house by the 11th of June. And your 12th house deals with endings. It deals with separation. It deals with hospitals. It deals with faraway places, self-sabotaging habits. It can deal with bed pleasures and dreams and the way that you sleep. It can also deal with the past and your subconscious and grief or mourning and hospitals as well, and any type of institution where you would be sort of separated from your normal scenario. Now with Mars here, your drive will be most likely much stronger to succeed. Your sex drive will be probably much more vigorous. You might feel that you're not getting credit for what you're doing with this transit. Or it could just be that you're kind of working behind the scenes and or maybe you're working in a faraway place or at home or somewhere separated, and you feel a bit as if you're not really being seen for what you're doing. Sometimes it can indicate that you're expressing yourself in an uncomfortable or an awkward manner because of subconscious patterns from the past that are coming out in your behavior, that's being triggered in some way. Maybe it's childish outbursts or because of things you haven't dealt with in the past. Because here with Mars here, you're being prompted to work on issues of the past and to let go of them. But in order to let go of them, to start the healing process, you first have to admit that they're there. And in order for that to happen, they'll be triggered and they'll be brought to your attention, and so that you can actually actively go there and work it out. So this might even be a time where you feel like seeing a counselor or something like that. Sometimes it can feel like others are sort of working against you, like a secret enemy of some kind, or someone that doesn't want you to get ahead or move forward with something, or they're always against you. And sometimes this has got to do with some of these behavior patterns that maybe you're not even aware of is controlling you in some way. And then this person might not even necessarily, want to do things in an underhanded way, but they sort of avoid you in a way because of these behaviors and do things sort of in a different way that might not be so fantastic. But this is also a wonderful time for charitable work or for working alone.
Now, while Mars is here, it will oppose Saturn in your 6th house, which can sometimes indicate a slowing down physically. Maybe things slow down at work or in your office, or just physically you're more tired and you're not doing as much. Sometimes it can indicate illness if other transits support that. Sometimes it can even indicate some kind of separation, or maybe some kind of ending. But basically, it can be a bit of a frustrating transit, because it's Mars wants to go and Saturn says no, not so fast. So it can be like some kind of disciplinary action or some kind of restriction that's taking place. For example, it could be something like, you wanting to go overseas, but something in your workplace, in your job is there's a no. There's either you're locked into your contract right now, or they can't give you your leave, or something like that. Or it can even be something in regards to health, but some kind of stop-start type of frustration. And sometimes it can also indicate just a little bit of sadness or depression at times. So just beware that this too shall pass. And then Mars will enter Virgo in your 1st house on the 29th of July. And this will help you to have a more practical approach. And you might find yourself wanting to be even more efficient and more detail oriented than you normally are. Your focus on health and cleanliness and so on will increase a bit more here. And then just be aware of being critical of yourself as well as others, being overcritical. At times with this transit, you can sometimes feel like your sex drive can be a bit suppressed, depending on other things in your chart as well. But mostly this can be a very busy period for you, a very hard, like sort of lots is going on, your pace is increased, and so forth. Just be careful of accidents, and also be careful of impulsivity, because, and also this transit affects your relationships, your close relationships, the way you express yourself, the way you sort of attack life during that time, and so forth. So, and Mars can be a bit more selfish. So you want to make sure that you are listening to others' views, you're taking other people's feelings into consideration, and you're not too me at that time, or kind of boxed into your own viewpoint the whole time. But this is a great transit to work by yourself. It's also a great transit to show the world what you can do. This is probably the energy that you'll have. And you'll just be more freedom oriented to want to do as you please. But watch that in regards to your close relationships. And while Mars is here, it will oppose Neptune. This can sometimes indicate deception in legal issues, or with contracts, or with a spouse or a business partner, or a relationship like that, an opponent of some kind. Sometimes it can also indicate illness or just a general lack of energy, like sort of just, you just need a break. So that could also be the case at times. And just be aware of allergies with Mars opposing Neptune, and being maybe more sensitive to pharmaceutical drugs and so forth. And then Mars will be in Scorpio in your 3rd house around the 30th of October. And your 3rd house deals with your siblings, your relatives. It deals with your neighbors, your mailman, your neighborhood. It deals with your commute to work, your everyday stuff, your schooling, your communication, your emails, your mind, your decision making, your skills, your learning, short courses, your language skills, and so forth. And with Mars here, your tempo of life also increases. You might find that you have a bit of a short fuse with this transit, and there can be more conflicts with everyday people, family, siblings, neighbors, and so forth. It can sometimes indicate that you need to work on something together with those people. Maybe you're building a fence or something like that. But you'll be feeling more strongly about your beliefs and ideas. And this can make conflicts more common because you'll want to defend yourself more vigorously than normal. But be careful of pointless arguments. Allow others to see things from their point of view. Take a step back and just be more cooperative. And try not to overreact. But this is a good transit for selling things if you're in the type of business where you have to sell a product or do a speech on and convince people of a certain, the quality of something. This is a good transit for that. You'll have a higher mental capacity to dig deep and so forth. This can also be an initiation of some kind of activity in regards to writing or, the media of some kind as well. And be careful of accidents with Mars in the third house, with vehicles or commutes, short trips, and so forth. And then Mars will be opposing Uranus while it is in this house. And at that time, this is again time for you to be careful of anger issues and impatience and striking out against others, especially in regards to beliefs and so forth. And this can even be political viewpoints and not just religious or philosophical views. It can cause explosive outbursts, accidents with travel. During that time, it's a good time to just lay it low and really check things through. All right, well, let's have a look at the retrogrades for 2021. Well, we will have Mercury retrograding in all 3 air signs in 2021. So it puts extra emphasis on the air quality of 2021 as we enter the age of Aquarius, and Mercury is also retrograding in all 3 air signs. So there's an extra emphasis on the mind, on information, on media, on online communications, trade, etc., and understanding in general. Now, Mercury will be retrograding in Aquarius as of January 30th until February 21st. And Aquarius is your 6th house. And with Mercury retrograde here, you want to double check that your emails are going through. You can expect maybe unexpected disruptions with electricity or internet. Your daily routines could be affected by this, so be more flexible, make lists, be open to schedule changes. You'll probably have a more intense focus on your health with Mercury retrograde here. Maybe you'll be willing to cut some things that you feel is unnecessary. You'll be more detail oriented. So this is a great time to, if you've been working on something, to check it over and to fine tune it with Mercury retrograde here. Sometimes this can bring in old friends, old co-workers, or issues that you've had in regards to them that's brought up for you to resolve. Sometimes you might cut back socially with this transit, as well as in this case, in your 6th house, you might cut back a bit in or change the way you're doing things and slow it down in a way. You'll go more inwards with your communication as well. And if you come across gossip during this time, double check that, because it could be faulty or false. So don't be inclined to believe that necessarily. And then Mercury will be retrograding in Gemini in your 10th house, which is your house of career and your reputation and parents and your boss and so forth. And with Gemini, with Mercury retrograde here, there can be misunderstandings at work. You can tend to be more forgetful. It's not a great time to look for a new job and start, maybe have an interview or something like that. So rather, get your applications ready, get your research done. So once Mercury is not retrograde, you can go forward with those types of things. But you don't want to start anything new. It might be a time where you're rethinking your career or your direction, and so forth. And this can also bring back family. It can bring back friends, or neighbors, or siblings, or issues with them from the past, or just they can even physically return, or just return in memory in some way. And then Mercury will be retrograding in Libra in your 2nd house from September 27th until October 18th. And this is a time where you want to streamline finances and not spend unnecessarily on things that's not needed. You might be rethinking your security, your values. This is not a great time for new investments. You might feel that you need to work on your budget and readjust it. You might be reorganizing your possessions, selling things, and just being more creative with purging that. This can also affect relationships, close relationships. You don't want to sign contracts with this transit. And you might be rethinking your job and your income and your way of life with this. Now, as with any other Mercury retrograde, you want to, during all of these retrogrades, you want to double check your communication. Choose direct communication if you can. Double check emails that they went through. Make sure you really understand when someone's talking to you and that they understand you. Be aware that there can be delays with mail or misplaced things, changes in your schedule, rerouting in your driving. There can be vehicle issues and electronic issues, of course, with phones and computers and financial transactions and things like that. Mistakes in tests and in writing and so forth. So it's not ideal to write tests during this or to buy electronics during this. And sometimes it can even make you redo a test that you might have done before, depending on your personal transits and so forth. But in general, just keep to the double checking everything with Mercury retrograde. But it can be a really rewarding time. But be flexible, and it will not be as harsh. So then let's have a look at Venus. Venus will retrograde December 19th until January 29th. And this will be in your 5th house of Capricorn, your house of children and fun and creative projects. And here you might be rethinking your financial situation. You might be rethinking how you spend money on your children, or money and children as a subject. You might be rethinking a love affair or a partner or fun in general as a family or for yourself or with a partner. How you express yourself can come up for reassessment. Your commitment to your partner, your income and career can also come up. And sometimes during this, you can also rethink maybe investments, financial investments, or some kind of speculation that you've done, and you're rethinking and reorganizing financial matters, love matters, your commitments, is how much give and take is there in the relationship. Also your relationship with money and your relationship to values and how other people see you and your own inner worth. And then Jupiter will retrograde June 20th to October 18th. And Jupiter will be in your 6th and 7th houses. And during this retrograde, you'll be more compassionate, and there will be more of an emphasis on the meaning of life and your spiritual connection with the Creator as well as with other people. And you might find that you want to spend more time in prayer. You might be questioning your beliefs during this time and be more investigative. And you'll want to be more in tune with, have your life's beliefs more in tune with your lifestyle. This is a good time to reassess your health habits, your work habits. It can sometimes indicate working in a foreign place or with foreigners. But you will become more aware of the injustices in the world as well during this. And you might feel that you really want to be the change in the world that you notice and start making changes towards that. But it's important to deal with forgiveness during this transit. It can sometimes mean that someone in your life it comes and brings in a lot of meaning or understanding or wisdom to you at this time. It can sometimes indicate meeting a soulmate, someone that maybe you judged before in a certain way, and now the tables have turned and you're taken by this person now. But this can also be lessons in being too judgmental or judging a book by its cover as well can come up with this. And then Saturn will be retrograding in Aquarius, your 6th house, from May 23rd until October 11th. And this is usually a time for restructuring and planning. And Saturn reminds us of reality and the aspects of life we cannot change or avoid. We might be able to change some of it, but we cannot avoid it. Like the length of life, our karma, regulations, taxes, hard work, duties and responsibilities, and restrictions, and even time itself. Now with Saturn retrograde here, it can bring back old friends from the past or issues with them. It might feel like you're not as productive at work as you'd like to be with Saturn retrograde. But this is a time where you want to get the basics done, the basics under the knee, while you're building this foundation before you start building it up. This is a time of refinement and polishing. So take the time to do it. Find the gold in this time that you have and use it wisely. All right, now let's have a look at the eclipses for 2021. Now, there will be 4 eclipses. The first one will be on the 26th of May. And this is a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius in your 4th house. Now, I'm not going to be going into all the details of the eclipses. There's just too much to look at. But I will be going over them through the year in my videos and in more detail. So you can definitely check that out. But I just wanted to give you an idea of which areas of life this might affect for you. Now, in this case, it's your 4th house, this lunar eclipse, which is your area of domestic affairs, your home, property, parents. It's also your childhood memories, your roots, your childhood, your emotional being of your childhood, and family. Now, lunar eclipses usually bring in some kind of culmination or finishing of some sort in this area, or some kind of fruition or ending, or something coming to a head. Now, eclipses also have a larger effect of influence. It can be 6 months to a year. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen on the eclipse, but it's basically, you can gauge it around of a 6-month period or so in effect to this. Now, there could be an ending of some kind of pattern in past conditioning with you here. Maybe you're finally leaving some of these childhood patterns behind you that don't serve you anymore. It can sometimes indicate the loss of a parent, or the feeling of the loss of a parent. Sometimes it can indicate moving to a new place. So it's sort of the finishing of this home and moving to a new home. It can deal with forgiveness that's finally happening, a finishing period of grief. Sometimes it can indicate moving to a foreign place, or eventually when the time is right, but this could be the activation of that for the fruition of this happening now finally. And then on the 10th of June, there will be a solar eclipse in the 10th house of Gemini, which is your career house and your public reputation, your boss, and so forth, and also parents. And this is a solar eclipse, and this is usually a seed of intention that's planted here, or it's a new beginning of some kind, or a new leaf being turned over. There's new energy here, and it can sometimes indicate a new direction in life, a new career, a new place of living. It can indicate a dream coming true, maybe a position that's being filled that you've always wanted. It can even be that you're finally getting married, or starting a new relationship with a new boss or something like this. And then the 19th of November, there will be a lunar eclipse in Taurus in your 9th house of higher education, philosophy, faraway places, legalizing, in-laws, grandchildren, and so forth. So in this case, there could be a culmination in regards to studies, completing a move overseas. It can be the finishing of a long trip, maybe where you've had to teach or learn. It can be the finishing off of a lawsuit. It can be the ending of a type of belief system that you had, or a type of understanding, or a type of perspective that you had on some kind of philosophy or idea. It can also involve your possessions and security and your values, your moral values, your ethics, and so forth. And then on the 4th of December, there will be a solar eclipse in Sagittarius again, in your 4th house of domestic affairs. So this is the house this year that's getting hit twice for you. So this house is quite emphasized. And this is again a new beginning or a new leaf being turned in regards to home or parents. So this could be buying a new home or moving to a new place. It could be a new beginning in regards to your roots and your childhood. It can be a new beginning as regards to family, a new family member. Or it can just be that you are in a place where you can finally stay. If things have been uncertain in your home environment, this can be a new beginning in regards to your home. This can also indicate a new quality of relationship with your family or with your parents as well. And then for most of 2021, there will be an uncomfortable square between Uranus and Taurus in your 9th house and Saturn in Aquarius in your 6th house. Both of these are in stubborn fixed signs, and therefore there is a bit of a strain between restriction and freedom, between the old and the new in regards to these two houses. And these are the houses of the 9th house, where Uranus is your belief systems, it's your higher education, your philosophy, the law, faraway travel, legal documents for immigration, lawsuits, that kind of thing. And then your 6th house, which is your daily responsibilities, your duties, your work environment, if you have a tenant, if you have a pet, those types of issues, or employees if you have a business. So this can be, restriction, freedom issues between these two areas. Maybe a tenant and the law, maybe between health and wanting to travel, or certain responsibilities that's preventing you from traveling, or from it can be between your belief systems and the people that you work with, or any of those types of situations, anything pretty much strenuous between these two areas. Now, let's have a look. I would also recommend the Cedarwood essential oil and blue lace agate as a stone for 2021. Blue lace agate is a wonderful stone in regards to helping you reach extremely high spiritual spaces. It's got a lot of light, air, and graceful qualities to it. And is very grounding in states of high frequency awareness. And it's also very strengthening to the skeletal structure. Now, cedarwood essential oil has calming qualities. It's got the ability to clear negativity. It's wonderful for grounding, for insomnia, and it's got so many other health benefits, including for hair loss, for eczema, for ADHD and ADD, so many other things. I'm not giving you medical advice here, so please make sure you check all contraindications and other information and so forth. But I will have the link in my description box below of where you can also find these oils. And I feel it's really some of the best quality medicinal value oils that you can buy today. And of course, you can put this in a diffuser. You can mix it with a carrier oil, and all the other uses of essential oils. Well, Virgo, I would like to thank you for allowing me to guide you through 2021. May God bless you and keep you, and may the sun shine bright on you this day and year.